Hey, it's Casey with 92.9 The Beat with a Beat Cares moment with CASA today, a court appointed special advocates with Sarah. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Casey.
Awesome. Well, for our listeners that don't know too much about CASA of Southwest Missouri, why is it so important that you guys are here in our local community for our children?
Sure. So, CASA of Southwest Missouri, like Casey had mentioned, stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates. And that's exactly what we do. We recruit and train community members, just like our listeners, to come in alongside children in foster care. And so, our particular organization serves Greene, Christian, and Taney County, which certainly includes Springfield. And there's around 1,300 children in care at any given time. And unfortunately, we're not seeing that number necessarily decrease. So really our goal here at CASA is to train these CASA advocates to then be appointed and have that one-on-one relationship with these kids in care. We ask that they go through our 5-week training and we do all the proper background checks and give them the tools and resources to be successful. And while that sounds intimidating, we often remind them of what our kids are going through and how intimidating that might be for our kids in care to go into a courtroom at 7 years old, at 15 years old. But the base of what we do is really that restoring of the relationship. And that really is playing bingo or doing coloring or cooking, baking cookies. And so there's just a lot of opportunities for healthy connection that comes through our volunteer opportunity. And that is really where we've been for the last 35 years. And we're excited to still be making a positive impact and also looking for new volunteers all the time.
Yeah, for someone who has never been involved, what does it mean to be a CASA volunteer? Like what part of their volunteer is actually going to be that hands-on for like helping the child?
Yeah, so we ask our volunteers, we usually tell them that it takes anywhere from 5 to 10 hours a month to volunteer with us. And we want them to see the child or children. Sometimes we have our CASA volunteers have sibling sets. And so we want to see them twice a month. One, it can be at school, can be at our wonderful CASA clubhouse that we opened a couple of years ago, our activity center next door. It can be, and the other one then is in their foster placement. So depending on the length of their case, that their homes could change, their schools could change, but that CASA is that consistent person that shows up and follows that child wherever they might be alongside them.
Nice. A solid person in their life that's going to be there, that's going to be in their corner rooting them on as well and be
Absolutely.
their advocate. Tell me a little bit more about that CASA clubhouse.
Sure. So I had the privilege actually when I began as a CASA volunteer about 5 years ago with my husband. And then about 2.5, the CASA Clubhouse opened. So ultimately, our leadership team at the time, our executive director, Laura Farmer, has spent her career in child welfare. And she really is a visionary in terms of being innovative. And so seeing the gaps within our child welfare system and seeing the great work that CASA can do, we wanted to continue bridging that gap. And so the way we've been able to do that with our CASA Clubhouse is that we're serving all kids in foster care through that clubhouse and their families. So it is a trauma-informed facility. It's got a kitchen, it's got private family rooms, it's got video games and homework stations and tutoring services. But it really is open to any child in foster care, regardless of whether or not they have a CASA on their case. And so through those services, we've been well over 2,000 children through the clubhouse doors while we're still training and recruiting. And that's another volunteer opportunity we've been able to open up. The way that people can volunteer, if that traditional route isn't for them, is through the clubhouse. Maybe it's donating and doing a snack drive for our regulation station. We've got a kids closet because we're serving birth to 21. And so maybe we need a onesie because a baby had a blowout. Or maybe we have an older youth coming through and they just got their first apartment, and everything in between. And so that has been a huge blessing for our community, and the level of involvement has been huge. I often will say, and we say here at CASA, child abuse and neglect is a community problem and also a community solution. And so it's been really wonderful to bridge that gap with the community and really bring a hard topic, a silver lining to a really hard topic. Because maybe it is the weight of that trauma or someone's own personal trauma that they don't know that they could be a CASA volunteer and do due diligence, but they want to volunteer at the front desk and greet those families when they come in the door, or the ever-ending sanitizing of toys. So it's been a cool way to obviously serve more kids while we're waiting for those CASA volunteers to be appointed, but also a lot of community members getting to support our mission in a lot of different ways through that facility.
Do you feel like when they say it takes a village to raise a child, I mean, this is definitely where you guys help come into, right?
Yes, absolutely. There's that statement is very true in our everyday.
I mean, that's awesome that you and your husband both volunteer together. Now, if somebody was on the fence and being hesitant about volunteering, what is the most rewarding part of volunteering with CASA?
I think when we first got into it, it was to give back. And I think the most surprising thing was what those kids on our cases gave to us and taught us. And so I think there again, I think it just hits home and resonates from my personal experience and so many of our other CASAs. Um, you don't do it for yourself, but somehow you get so much in return. And I think there's just this beauty in that. And I think there's some restoration that everyone is worthy of the dignity that they have been given by their existence. And so for us to be able to be reminded of that day in and day out, or to remind these kids day in and day out, is just everything.
Deep into the heart of everything. I mean, you're making a difference, but they're also making a difference in your life. I love
Mhm.
that so much. Now, what does having a CASA advocate, what does that mean for the child's experience in foster care and in the court system?
Yeah, so like I had kind of mentioned, once they enter foster care, they may be in temporary placements because essentially um, they don't know how long they're going to stay anywhere throughout that. And so maybe they're changing homes, maybe they're changing schools, maybe they're changing caseworkers. And so that CASA advocate really is that stable person, but also I think creates stability within the child welfare system. We have guardian ad litems, we have parent attorneys, we have the judge, we have the caseworkers, all of these entities, but the CASA is that voice in the courtroom. Now, of course, our judges here are great and they want the kids in court to speak for themselves um, based off of age appropriate or situational. Absolutely want to hear from the kids. But if that's not possible or if they're not comfortable, that's where the voice of the CASA comes in, because they're writing a court report before court and our judges read every court report. They are represented in the courtroom. If the child is present, they're that support system, but also they'll speak on behalf of really what's going on. And it has created a lot of unity within the child welfare community to have that CASA, because of some of the other shuffling going on, they're going to have the most historical data and they're going to have the child's story to be
Mhm.
able to tell. And part of that absolutely includes trauma. And so it comes across from the CASA being able to tell that child's story instead of the child maybe feeling comfortable to continue to repeat that
Mhm.
traumatizing information. Um, so all that to say, there's so many things that they can offer, but it's volunteering and having that relationship out of the courtroom, but certainly being a team member that is court appointed. We're the only volunteer organization that's appointed by the court, so we're absolutely part of that family support team. And often our volunteers don't give themselves enough credit. Oh, I'm just a volunteer. They're a critical piece to the puzzle, and time again, our community partners will say that because they have that history and they have that relationship where someone new to the case would not have that information.
A CASA volunteer, what kind of stories have you heard over the years and seeing the difference that it makes in a child's life? Do you have any great stories that you'd be able to
Oh,
share?
yes, all of them. But for the sake of time, I would love to share one that really sticks out to our team here. So this was actually a sibling set, and a 6 and an 8-year-old sibling set, and they came into care due to their dad struggled with substance abuse, and their mom also had just some kind of probably most likely generational trauma of her own. And so
Mhm.
they came into care and realized pretty quickly that neither one of them, although they were not together, neither one of them were that safe avenue for these kids at that time. And so ACASA was able to be appointed to show up at least twice a month to engage with them. Throughout that relationship building, they learned that these kids loved magic. So the CASA volunteer on one of their visits brought some magic tricks along. And
Aw.
so they got to engage in something really fun and personal. And so there again, that fun side, that personal side, but then navigating the realities of why they're in care. So we also do, we partner with the juvenile office and we do what's called celebrating families. And that is a 12-week cohort for families and parents who are working towards sobriety and reunification of their case. So they meet actually at the CASA Clubhouse. We've done 2 cohorts over there, and it is engaging the whole family because 10 times out of 10, these kids want to go back home.
Yeah.
And we also want that too. We just have to make sure that that safety and is all there and that. And so I think throughout celebrating families, this particular family got to go every Tuesday night, come and have a family dinner. And then they had the parents break off and the kids break off on their curriculum. They would come back together. They've since graduated from celebrating families. Dad is we're very happy to celebrate him in his over 1 year of sobriety. And those
Nice.
kids are back home with their dad.
Oh, I
So
love.
there again, it's just amazing. And that CASA, although the case is closed, that CASA still has been able to maintain that relationship with them without the legality. It really is that I'm a stable person and I'm consistent, and can be long after, you're back home. So that's been really cool. That's just one of many, but certainly one that hits so many aspects of our volunteer experience.
Yeah, and I mean, especially if you're able to get them back into their home in a better environment. I mean, isn't that the goal? Just and
Yeah.
and then still have that communication and stuff after to keep them on the right directory. Question though, what kind of training and support do your CASA volunteers receive to help prepare them for this really important role?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, it's really exciting timing. We've got our training coming up September 30th. So, all of our volunteers go through a 5 week series. This particular one is a daytime one. We offer, since our volunteers come from all walks of life and backgrounds and availability, we do offer daytime and evening trainings throughout the year. But they'll do a 5 week series, and that includes 30 hours of pre service training. That's half in the classroom, and they also do court observations throughout that process. And then the other part of that is online or offline, to do some homework and video reflections and different things like that. Once they go through that 5 weeks, we actually take them over to the courthouse, and our local judges will do a swearing in and read an oath, and it becomes official at that point. So they are then assigned a CASA advocate supervisor, which is where our paid staff were to come into play. And that's really the liaison between, I'm a banker, I don't know anything about child welfare, but you're a great mentor for these kids. And so our advocate supervisors have the experience and the expertise to be that liaison to troubleshoot anything from the court side of things or just from child welfare that might be confusing to our volunteers, to help educate and provide resources. So in a nutshell, yes, it's 30 hours. They get sworn in, then they'll get to pick their first case. We serve birth to 21. And so maybe there are some specifics. Oh, I want an older youth. Or we know now that over half of our kids coming into care are birth to 4. So we've been able to respond to that in both ways. Older youth can sometimes seem forgotten, that 14 and up. They're like, oh, they've got figured out. Nobody has life figured out at 14, especially when you add in these components. And so we have a couple older youth specialists on our staff who really help our volunteers in that area. But then we also have an early childhood specialist, and that is that birth to 4. We recognized the increase of support for our CASA volunteers for the older youth when we added that position. So this is year 2 of our early childhood specialist position, to really hone in on developmental milestones or to really understand the brain chemistry of kids in trauma, regardless of their ages, and how that impacts. So it's a wealth of knowledge because our CASA volunteers do continuing ed hours as well. And so for the years that they are part of our organization as a volunteer, we offer monthly in-service trainings. They can read a book or listen to a podcast, but we ask that they maintain at least 12 hours of continuing ed. And that's not hard to do. There's a lot of things out there and a lot of topics that hit home in every situation that we have our cases in. So that is a way that we kind of continue to support them as well.
I love the fact that you guys are going and putting in the effort and getting not only getting them set up with the tools to be able to help these kids, but the continued training and stuff is gonna be such a great benefit to not only them, but the children that they're helping too. And the fact that you guys have the different, advocates for, like, the age ranges. I didn't even think about the younger kids that, yeah, they may just not know obviously I have my own kids too, but and the older kids, yeah, you don't have life figured out at 14, and my daughter's 14, and
Mhm.
I couldn't imagine not having somebody be there for her to be able to, like, stand up and voice their concerns if there was any, you know?
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
that's really great that you guys have somebody there that is definitely specially trained too to be able to help them out in a better way. Awesome. Well, with CASA, I know that you have the CASA volunteers. Was there any other needs that you guys are needing some help with? I know that you said that you have like a clothing thing and you're also doing dinners. Is that something, if somebody wants to help volunteer and support your guys' cause, do they have other options?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is our main traditional, which is all the training and all of that. We would still background check our long term. So if they're coming over to the clubhouse once a week, we would background check and fingerprint them, and we, cover that cost. But then yes, so we have anywhere from, if you like fundraising or gather. We just had a gala a couple of weeks ago, our biggest fundraiser. And so if it's gathering donations, is it doing a donation drive
Mhm.
at your workplace, at your church, within your family? We've had a really cool story. Another really cool story. We had a girl who had been adopted out of foster care that had her 10th birthday. And she decided on her 10th birthday that she was going to actually have all of her birthday presents donated back to our CASA Clubhouse. So the
Mhm.
CASA Clubhouse did not exist when she was in foster care, but she had heard and have had benefit through her own experience that then she wanted to somehow pour into the kids. And um, that's a testament to her, obviously, but just also to incorporate that kids, although we require you to be 21 to volunteer, kids and families of all ages can engage. And so we want to offer a snack and a drink to everyone. Food insecurity is really high when abuse and neglect are involved. And
Mhm.
so the clubhouse provides food and drink for anyone visiting. We've got a kitchen, so we'll do cooking classes. They can do a meal. A couple times a year, we'll have all of our older youth come over, and they actually have their court hearings in our headquarters, and then they will go over to the clubhouse for resources and games and food. And so a local church the past couple of times has donated the meal for that and helped cover that cost. So I think there's just so many ways that I'm probably not even thinking of, that if you have a skill, we do Kid Connect. So maybe you're making tie blankets and you want to connect with the community, bring the fabrics and we'll bring the kids. And so then they walk away with something tangible that they
Yeah.
can call their own. And that's really important to kids of all ages. But also, if you leave a place and you don't have anything of your belongings that may come with you sometimes, we can offer some of those things if you're visiting the clubhouse or just in this state of chapter in your life.
Mhm.
So sanitizing, mailers, snacks, meals, kid clothes, the birthday gifts, like I mentioned, um, and then volunteering through some of our fundraising events, because we kind of do all hands on deck. So the best way to find all of this really is to check out our website at www.casaswmo.org. And there's a donate, there's a how to volunteer, there's an info that if you're just kind of like, I don't know, but I'm interested, we'd be more than happy to connect and see how you can gain experience and understanding of our mission and give back, but also then it's a win-win for us too when we engage our community and our needs.
Mhm. I love that. Yeah, so many different options on how to get involved with CASA. Sarah, as just a, like you said, a volunteer before, if you're talking straight to that person that
Mhm.
really wants to help out, that just feels like they're not right there ready yet, what would you say to them?
I would say at least follow us on social media, follow us on Facebook, and you'll see some of those highlights. And then I would still encourage you to fill out an application, because what we also do before that pre-service training starts is we go through an interview process with our training coordinator, and it's about an hour, hour and a half, and that really is an opportunity to discern what that best match is. And so I think if there's any hesitation, it's an opportunity that to kind of ask yourself, why is that thought there that I could?
Mhm.
I think a lot of times we maybe have the mentality of I'm not good enough. And I think if that's the case, then absolutely you'd make a great CASA, because that's what our kids think. Our
Mhm.
kids think that they're unworthy. And I think there's just this connection, a human connection, to be relatable, to be approachable, and to also know that these kids deserve it, and so do these CASAs. So that would be my kind of message. I could go on and on, of course. I'm very passionate about kids and child abuse and neglect and just our community at large. And I think our mission speaks to that. And I think we need you just as much as they need us. And so I think that would be my message.
Awesome. That's amazing, Sarah. Well, thank you so much for your time today. For more information, where are they going to head to?
Yeah, head to our website at www.casaswmo.org or follow us on Facebook. It's CASA of Southwest Missouri. We'd love to see you. Too is if you have that hesitation, who do you have in your life that you could double up with because you could still make that impact and have a case together? Because I think what's really special about our community is people want to give and they're very generous, but sometimes they don't know how or in what direction, or, oh, I don't necessarily fit this component, or I don't have that amount of time to commit, but I could do something. And I think that's, we will always say $1 matters, $1,000,000 matters, but your time is also like anything that you are able to offer. We know we can put to work and make a positive difference with your willingness. So I think it's just a matter of that education piece, which we got to do today, but then also the opportunity for people to decide what's going to work for them to be successful, because we don't want, and that's what we don't want. We don't want somebody to commit and then have to back out of these kids' lives either. And so that's where the clubhouse or a lot of these other volunteer opportunities, it's like, well, I just graduated college, or, newly engaged or newly married, or we don't know where our lives are going to lead. Maybe it's the volunteering at the clubhouse on a more short-term basis that you can absolutely help us with, and still engage with the families and still support us, but not feel like then you're letting a child and care down because you're one more person that has to leave. And that's what we really try to make sure that our volunteers know. We understand things will happen out of their control, best of intentions, but that retention is really important for us too.